not here to sing a song or anything. I'm here to talk about the late Bob Stotts. It's going to be spontaneous. It's impromptu, and it's. First of all, I just wanted to say thank you, VJ, for allowing me to do this and talk about something that's important to my world, and I'm sure important to other people's listening people out there that are fans of Bob Stotts. And so this is a story about Bob Stotts, to the best of my recollection. That's one of my problems. I say things wrong. But anyhow, we're going to be talking about the late Bob Stotts, my dad, and as I can remember, my dad growing up with him. Most of the time I remember about my dad, I wasn't as a musician, even though I was really young. I was like 7 or 8 years old when he was performing live on the radio. But I do all my life. I remember him playing music, and I recall listening to some of his music when I was real little. So with that in mind, I'll tell you what I know about my dad, Bob Stotts. Okay, I'm trying to be as organized as I can. So I have a little bit here about my dad. I have his name is Robert B. Stotts. B is for Bonus. He was born in Spickard, Missouri on May 9th, 1919. He passed away on October 16, 1994. So basically that tells you he lived 75 years on planet Earth, and during that short period of time, which is 75 years isn't that long, but he accomplished a lot of things. And he was just one of those he was a self-made man, and he had common sense. He just had a lot of common sense, which was pretty important, 75 years ago or whatever. That's when education was important, but it's still important today. But he was a self-made man, and he only had an 8th grade education, but he did a lot of things in his life. He was just a talented musician and a carpenter. So that's the two things that he always wanted. I remember my dad telling me one time, he says, I've known since I was 9 years old what I wanted to do with my life. And those were the two things, those were his two loves, was carpentry and music. And so he was one of those rare people that knew early in life what he wanted to do. And like I said, he was born in Missouri, and I know he played the guitar in Missouri before I was born even, and that must be where he learned his trade as a carpenter. But anyhow, I was born in December 9, 1944, and I was born in Murray, Nebraska, and during that time, of course, my dad that was during the time of the war. 1944 was, during the the Second World War. And I have two uncles. My dad had two brothers. One was Gordon and one was Wayne. Wayne was in the Army and Gordon was in the Navy. My dad didn't go, he wasn't able to go into the military. I think it had something to do with gallbladder or something like that, but he was also the oldest of the brothers in the family, so he also helped his parents, while they were getting old. And so during that time, 1944, my dad worked at a bomber plant, and shortly after that, he must have gotten a job offer at KMA Radio as an entertainer, because word got around that he was a musician, and so they invited him to be part of their show, at KMA, which is in Shenandoah, Iowa. And the way I understand it, there's been thousands of musicians that have gone through there, but I think there's been only maybe 20 or so musicians that have actually been on the payroll. And my dad was fortunate to be one of them that was on the payroll. So he was part of the show. He had about 3 or 4 slots during the day, and a couple of them were early in the morning. So a lot of people, it's kind of a farming area, so a lot of people would turn on the radio back then, because TV was you know, this was in 40s to 50s. You know, there wasn't a lot of people didn't even have TV, so they would turn the radio on and they would tune into KMA radio. And he had a lot of fans. They had a lot of fans, and so they would tune into the Bob Stotts show. And I think he had one at 5:30, and then he came back and did another one a little bit longer, a little later in the day. And he had, like I said, he was on there. He was one of the musicians that had his own show, and but he had a lot of fans. I was going to show you something here. Look at this case. This is, I mean, this thing is like was back. I don't even remember where I got this, but this is one of my dad's boxes that he had. So I keep some of his stuff in here, and as you can see, save Robert Stotts. So we'll just open this up, and there's some pictures in here, and there's some of those I posted on Whitby Shores, but I also have. Let's take this out. Well, here's some of his pictures. There's my dad, and that's his diamond. That's his horse. As you can see, I made some extra copies of those. Let's see. And my dad was also a carpenter. This is how I remember my dad, believe it or not. Here's my dad when he was on the radio, and after he left KMA, he became a carpenter. But he was a really good carpenter, and here's my dad, the carpenter dad, Bob Stotts. A lot of people, that's a picture of my dad and my mom when we lived in New Mexico, and here he is. Here's me up here, and here's my dad with my sister and my mom, and over here is when let's see, what is that? Yeah, that's when I graduated from high school, and this is my dad, right? You can barely see him, but that's him in the corner there at my graduation. But let's see. Oh, here we go. Of course, I got more letters, but I'll just set this aside over here. Here's some. These are some of the letters that my dad, some of the fan letters, my dad when he was on the radio, and so I just thought maybe I haven't looked at these for a while, but I got a handful of them here, but some of the reading is kind of hard to read. But this one says January 4th, 1956, and it says Curly has. Oh, I can't read that one very well. But this one says Bob Stotts at KFNF Radio in Shenandoah, Iowa. So my dad was not only on KMA, he was also on KFNF Radio. So there was like actually 2 radio stations in Shenandoah. And that one was from Vilma Swink, Riverton, Iowa, box 262. And here's one was from Mrs. Richard E. Kennedy of East Omaha. So KMA went quite a ways. It went all the way to Omaha. But here's a letter that my dad got from a fan, and it says, "Hi Bob, my son just invited his friend in, snowy boots and all. Wow, don't guess it's snowing right now. Can't imagine why I hate winters. I used to like it except for cold weather. Hey, we want to know if we can still get your records. Guess we should have gotten them before, even without a record player. We knew we'd get one someday. Hope you make some more records, and real soon. You should see Augie's income tax return." Oh well, this one's dated 1956, January the 25th. And for 2 cents, I'd send it that way. That is another job I have to do. But it still isn't figured right. Well, anyhow, we're getting out of the subject. But anyway, they're talking about their income tax back in 1956. So this is the kind of fan mail my dad would get. And he said, we wouldn't mind if you did have that extra 1/2. Let's see here. Curly said 9:30 to 10:30 at least would be fine. For some reason, I like to hear you do Western songs the best. Cowboys Meditation is one of, so that must have been one of the requests that my dad used to play, because they mentioned Cowboys Meditation is one I like, and Little Mohi. We like to hear Buck do the fiddling, and you call square dance. Better go, got another income tax blank. If I can, friends. Say hi to Viola. That was my mom. So that's one of his fan letters. And here's one that says, "Hi boys." In other words, she's talking to my dad plus some of the other musicians on the radio. He says, "What could be better than Bob and Buck's music? Just more of it. I was baking Marjorie's cherry oatmeal dream cookie during your program. Wished you could have been there and served you some of these delicious cookies with good butternut coffee for such a wonderful program." That's, where my dad was singing. Who minds the cold weather with such a good program coming in their home? Keep up the good work, and thanks, yours sincerely, L.C. Fredhauer. So that's one of them. And there's one from Mabel Silverthorne, and it says, "Dear Bob, I heard you Saturday morning. I want to thank you for the song you did for me. It was a very pretty number. Heard you later and do hope we have you on the air for a long, long time. Maybe sometime you will have a product I can order and give you credit. I hope to hear. They bring back memories of the happy past. I like the Teenagers program too. Best wish to all in the station." So anyhow, there's that gives you an idea of what what it was, the kind of stuff that he correspondence he would. So he had a lot of fans and a lot of friends, and he was pretty popular. He had 2 shows. So basically, that's a little background on my dad and some of the stuff that he did on the radio at KMA Radio. And here's some of the recordings that when my dad died, I was fortunate. That's the one thing I was happy about to receive was some of his home recordings. And if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have anything on, for everybody to listen to. But anyhow, I got one plugged in over here, and see what this one says. It says, "Bob and Merle, December 30, 1972. This was after my dad actually left the radio. And a good friend of his, Merle Douglas, used to get together and do some jamming. So I'll just turn this on and see what we got with this. That's Merle talking.
He said, "Oh, am I going to get him?" He said, "Man, he's really coming. This guy said he's going to be coming 90 miles an hour. Oh," he said, "I'm going to get him." And he said, "I looked up." He said, "So the light," he said, "he's on the same side as I am. He's on the shoulder with me." And he said, "Pretty to clam." He said it hit him knocked him about 300 yards. And he said, "Man," he said, "they're going with 20 kilometers. He said, "This old boy," he said, "he got out there, and he went over there and looked at the old boy, and the old boy got, and it was the old boy who was drinking with that.
Just my dad laughing.
The old boy said, he asked me, he said, the old boy asked him, he said, this wreck just happened. How the hell did you get that?
Okay, here, that's after them jamming a little bit. Here's my dad singing. Wait till that one's over. Well, anyhow, that's like I said, I got a bunch of his recordings, and if you want to listen to some of it, he's got 40. I have 40. I think it's 44 songs that I have posted on Whitby Shores, so if you want to hear the rest of them, all you have to do is click on Bob Stotts and you can hear all of his songs that I had about him. Like I said, he's done a lot of songs. I mean, that's probably just the tip of the iceberg, you know. My dad, he actually performed from, I think, about 1940, probably 1946 to about 1956 he was on KME radio, so he was, you know, he did it for quite a while. And so that's a little bit about my dad, and this, like I said, this is just impromptu, it's spontaneous, and my dad was, he was a quiet, you know, he was probably the most comfortable was when my dad was on the radio. He was really kind of a private person. He wasn't really on the, you know, off the air. He was pretty quiet. He never talked a lot about you know, his talents or his gifts or anything. He was just enjoyed working in the garden. He enjoyed building houses. He enjoyed picking up his guitar and playing, you know, a request if somebody had a song or something like that. So he was really kind of a private person, but he just, like I said, the minute he stepped on the stage, he just came like he was part of it. You know, he was just comfortable. I never saw him nervous on the stage. He would get up there and I used to get goosebumps when he'd get up on stage and he would start singing. The first time I remember my dad singing was I was probably about 7 or 8. I guess I was in the car or someplace. I remember the radio was on and I heard this musician and I heard him singing "Back in the Saddle Again," and I said, "Oh, that's Gene Autry." And I don't know if my mom said or somebody said, "No, that's your dad singing." I said, "Really?" Because I knew who Gene Autry was. Even he was on TV then, I think, or he was on the radio. And so that's the first time I remember hearing my dad. And like I said, I thought he was Gene Autry. And then he used to sing a lot of Hank Williams songs. And I didn't even know who Hank Williams was back then. I just knew he sang his songs. So somewhere along the line, he became a musician and a carpenter, and that's basically what I remember about my dad. I remember him working at KMA Radio, and I remember I was actually in the stage where they performed, and I remember being inside there and watching him on stage. But that part of my childhood is, vague. But I remember that, and then after he left the radio, he would still play. If somebody asked him to play it, he would. And he would go to like fiddlers, what do you call those, fiddler contests, and he always did really well on those. He would usually take first place. So I guess there's not really a whole lot more I can. I could talk on and on and on, but that's pretty much that's pretty much his story. And I wanted to make it short, but it wasn't all that short. But anyhow, I just wanted to thank you for letting me come and talk about Bob Stotts. It's been awesome, and I just want to thank VJ again for allowing me to do this, and I just want to say hi to my friends on Whitby Shores, and anybody out there, just click on Bob Stotts and you get to hear his music. Thank you.